Hi, this edition of Truth Telling is called Abandoned. It's a story of how two young people were betrayed and thrown to the wolves. Prince Harry and Meghan were portrayed as ingrates who destroyed the royal family. And it took the interview with Oprah to reveal their side of the story. Before I go on, let me just say, please hit subscribe, follow, and share and comment on this video because it's appearing on my YouTube channel. Well, after watching one of the most riveting interviews performed by Oprah Winfrey, who is still the Queen of Chat, last night, I realized that the Commonwealth has just ended. It's over, bar the shouting. Britain's reputation is absolutely in tatters. However, Britain's influence in the world will remain for some time to come, but it will be based on the fact that she's the fifth or sixth largest economy in the world, still has a considerable army. So that deference will be on account of whatever fear people hold for the British nation. But any thoughts of respect for Britain evaporated with the optics that were revealed in that interview here in London last night and on Sunday early in the morning in America. Now, first of all, let's start with the kind of commonly put out facts, quote unquote, about the situation of Harry and Meghan. First of all, it was said that Harry and Meghan just slunk off to America, abandoned the royal family, left them in the lurch, and did not tell the Queen. That was a lie. Harry, by his own words, said, and I believe him, that he has too much respect for his grandma just to sneak off like that. She definitely knew. The papers put it out that the Queen was blindsided by that move. Secondly, the other thing which really coloured people's perceptions of Meghan, widely put about again in the media, was that she made Kate, Wills's wife, cry over something to do with the outfit of the bridesmaids at her wedding. Shock and horror to discover that actually the opposite was the case, so that it was the comments and behaviour of Kate that made Meghan cry, and that Kate, recognizing what she'd done, actually apologized and sent flowers for whatever she'd done. So again, reported completely in the opposite by the tabloids here in the United Kingdom. I was shocked to understand that when you're joining one of the biggest brands on planet Earth, there isn't a brand book, a total induction to explain the do's and the don'ts, both of which must measure in the hundreds. I remember when I joined Johnson's Wax as a market analyst, they presented me with a brand book this thick. That was the Bible, according to Johnson's Wax. You had to learn it as a marketeer for the company, with all the rules, the do's, the don'ts, the ethics of the company, its positions with graphic examples, colorways, and so on. You had to know that book back to front as part of your induction. Meghan rocked up into the oldest institution, one of the oldest institutions in Europe. She didn't even know how to curtsy. Now, if you come from a culture where this sort of thing isn't typical, which I would have thought the brand managers would understand, you would expect people to be taught exactly how to do that sort of thing. In Nigerian culture, for example, there's something called dobale. Dobale means to prostrate yourself, and it's a mark of respect for people who are senior to yourself. So you dobale, or you prostrate before people who are your seniors, your elders, and so on and so forth. Now, Nigerians are taught to do that from when they're knee high to a grasshopper, from childhood. Nobody has to teach anybody what to do there. But in this case, of course, it's not in Meghan's culture. Somebody should have brought her up to speed. I was shocked nothing like that took place. Then there was the, this is trivial, but this is the sort of thing that completely gaslights people into mental illness. There was a story which said that Kate liked avocados as a native remedy for morning sickness when she was pregnant. It settled her stomach. And it was thought to be a really kind of wise and forward-thinking and organic way of solving what is a perennial problem for all women who are pregnant. Meghan goes and does the same thing, and it's linked to deforestation, environmental degradation, and so on and so forth. So you get completely two double standards in the way both women are considered. Now, all of this stuff is in the public domain. What was not in the public domain, and what was for me, the highlight of the whole conversation with Meghan, between Oprah Winfrey and Meghan, was what I call the TPC moment. This is where the title for the still then unborn Archie, the T, was connected to the P, which is the protection he was going to receive as a future royal, to the C, and this is a kicker, which was his colour. A linkage was made as to what colour the child, still then at the time unborn, would come out as. And this was linked to whether or not he would receive a royal title, as is completely conventional, has been for hundreds of years, and whether or not he'd receive royal protection. Now, Harry very eloquently said that when you're born into that kind of family, there are certain risks you inherit just by virtue of having their surname. And it was revealed that, owing to the difficulties that might arise out of the colour of the child yet to be born, he would not receive royal protection. Now, to be honest with you, look at me. I don't look like Meghan. My complexion is somewhat darker than a lady who, in the right lighting, excuse me, could completely pass as white. But when she was talking about her experiences at the hands of the royal family, I suddenly saw before me an example of many, many, many Black women and what they've been through in their lives when they're being gaslighted and mentally tortured to put them in a position of submission. My heart went out to the young lady at that time. However successful she'd been in her life, however much personal assets she had, however much status she had, it meant nothing when, as a result of all these pressures, she started thinking about taking her own life. What kind of people does it take to put another human being in that condition? What had she done to deserve that? And her answer was, just for being alive, she deserved that. Meaning, for being alive as what they call, and I only very tenuously consider, her as a Black woman. Link that then to, and all mothers everywhere of any ethnicity are the same. Number one priority in their minds, good health, security, and safety of the child they're going to carry for 9 good months and push out. This was driving this woman absolutely crazy. Now, the reason I say the Commonwealth ended when those words came out was that there's been a distance between the to's and the fro's, the comings and the goings around the royal family. There's been a distance between that and what people know about the actual internal workings of the so-called firm. Now that people have heard what they've heard, there is nobody in Africa who is going to be able to unhear that. What they have been explicitly told is that actually you chaps aren't entirely human. Even if you joined a family, you would be in a second tier of people. And that's when the Commonwealth ended. It's not going to kind of fall apart straight away, but people now know what has been denied by the media, by the press, by the royals, by people in society, because it's too shameful and too embarrassing to own up to. Well, it's out in the open now. And I can guarantee you, Africans are thinking, do we need the Commonwealth? And if we want to have a Commonwealth, maybe we ought to kick off with something that actually better suits us. Speaking for myself, what makes sense is for Britain to create a new Commonwealth with white people of white nations, so that if one of them were to marry into their royal family, they could still have their TPC, they could have their title, they could have their protection, because their colour, the C, would also be right. And that's where we are. I think that COVID has played a part in this, because what COVID has done is that it's taken away all the fat in any of these social circumstances. It's enabled us, because of the pressures we've been under with lockdown, with vaccinations, who's going to be vaccinated, who's not going to be vaccinated. People are under a lot of pressure at the moment as to whether or not the vaccine should be mandatory, especially Africans with their past history of experience with things like vaccinations. They're very worried and so on. So all of these things have made people rather more binary in their attitude to what looks good and what looks bad. And they've definitely come to the conclusion that there is a color bar at play here. There is a set of double standards at play here. And they're going to decide that actually this doesn't work for us anymore. And those who are apologists for the racism that has been displayed as coming out of the very core of the United Kingdom, I think worldwide, perhaps the Queen enjoyed the greatest respect as the essence of what Britishness was. That respect is gone, because it's been demonstrated that that respect doesn't make everybody equal. And that is the problem that the United Kingdom is going to have to face. Actually, I don't believe it's going to come back until the United Kingdom changes. And if the United Kingdom decides that actually it likes the way it is, it's the privilege of the royal family in the United Kingdom. But that respect will never come back, in which case the only way they're going to stay in play is by being very dictatorial, and they're going to have to rule by might, because the prawn cocktail offensive, the lovey-dovey bit, is going to ring awfully hollow when people have been told that people who look like them aren't 100% normal human beings. And that's it. That was the learnings from the, I think, most significant one-on-one interview shaping the destiny of the United Kingdom in maybe 100 years. Britain has just moved into a new place with that interview. Do subscribe, comment and share. Thanks for listening.